Welcome to No War 2017, War and the Environment. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for that. We already have more applause than Trump's entire UN speech. My name is David Swanson. I'm going to briefly introduce Tim DeChristopher and Jill Stein, and also speak briefly first myself. We hope to also have time for some questions for the three of us, and then move on to other parts of the agenda. We hope to have questions and answers in every part of this conference. Thank you to everyone who has volunteered to help World Beyond War with this event, including Pat Elder, who is organizing the volunteers. Thank you to World Beyond War volunteers throughout this past year, including our all-volunteer coordinating committee, especially our chair, Leah Bolger, and also especially those in distant parts of the globe who could not be here in person, some of whom are watching on videos right now. Thank you to our organizer, Mary Dean, and our education coordinator, Tony Jenkins. Thank you to Peter Kuznick for arranging this venue. Raise your hand if you were out on the water in a kayak on Sunday in front of the Pentagon and you might be in this picture. Thank you to our kayaktivists. And I have to thank all of the sponsors of this conference, including Code Pink, Veterans for Peace, RootsAction.org, End Wars Forever, Earthlings, Just World Books, Center for Citizen Initiatives, Arkansas Peace Week, Voices for Creative Nonviolence, Environmentalists Against War, Women Against Military Madness, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and the Portland branch thereof, Rick Minnick, Steve Schafferman, Op-Ed News, the National Campaign for a Peace Tax Fund, Dr. Art Milholland, and Dr. Luan Mostello of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Some of these groups have tables outside in the hallway just outside the doors and in the hallway on the way from the elevators, so please support these groups. Also groups that helped spread the word, Nonviolence International, On Earth Peace, War is a Crime, DC350.org, Peace Action Montgomery, United for Peace and Justice. Thank you to all of these wonderful organizations. Thank you to all the incredible speakers we are going to be hearing from. Thank you especially to the speakers from environmental organizations and backgrounds who are joining with those from peace organizations and backgrounds. Thank you to the Sam Adams Associates for Integrity in Intelligence for again partnering with us on this event as they did last year. Thank you to this venue, which prefers to remain unnamed, and to the general public for maintaining relatively general sanity despite various heroes being announced as coming to this conference who had been demonized in our beloved corporate media. One of them, as you may have heard, Chelsea Manning, has canceled on this event. Unlike the disgraceful Harvard Kennedy School, we did not cancel on her. Thank you also to the Backbone Campaign and all of the people who helped with the flotilla. Also to Patrick Hiller and everyone who helped with the new edition of our book, which you have a free copy of in your packets. And if you're watching on video, you can get in a bookstore, A Global Security System, an Alternative to War. And Tony Jenkins has produced an online video study guide that he will be telling you all about tomorrow, and which is on the World Beyond War website. During World War I, we should note, the U.S. Army used land that is now a part of the campus we are on to create and test out chemical weapons. Then it buried what Karl Rove might have called vast stockpiles underground, left, and forgot about them until a construction crew uncovered them in 1993. The cleanup is ongoing with no end in sight. One place the Army used tear gas was on its own veterans when they came back to D.C. to demand bonuses. Then, during the Second World War, the U.S. military dumped huge quantities of chemical weapons into the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In 1943, German bombs sank a U.S. ship at Bari, Italy, that was secretly carrying 1 million pounds of mustard gas. Many of the U.S. sailors died from the poison, which the United States said it was using as, quote, a deterrent, though it did not explain how something deters while kept secret. That ship is expected to keep leaking gas into the sea for centuries. Meanwhile, the US and Japan left over 1,000 ships on the floor of the Pacific, including many fuel tankers. I mention the military poisons in the immediate environment not as something exceptional, but more as the norm. There are 6 Superfund sites poisoning the Potomac River not far from here, and as Pat Elder has noted, they are all military sites. They are poisoning the Potomac with everything from acetone, alkaline, arsenic, anthrax, on down to vinyl chloride, xylene, and zinc. 69% of Superfund sites across the United States are military bases. And this is the country for which this military is supposedly performing some sort of so-called service. What the US military and other militaries do to the earth as a whole is unfathomable, or at least unfathomed. The US military is the top consumer of petroleum around, burning more than most entire countries. I'm probably going to skip the US Army's upcoming 10-miler in DC, at which people will be, quote, running for clean water. Water in Uganda, supposedly. For a fraction of just what Congress just increased US military spending by, we could end the lack of clean water everywhere on Earth. And any race in DC had better stay away from any rivers if it doesn't want to come into contact with what the US Army actually does to water. What war and war preparations do to the earth has always been a hard topic to get at. Why would those who care about the earth want to take on the beloved and inspiring institution that brought us Vietnam, Iraq, the famine in Yemen, torture at Guantanamo, and 16 years of gruesome slaughter in Afghanistan, not to mention the gleaming eloquence of President Donald J. Trump? And why would those who oppose the mass murder of human beings want to change the subject to deforestation and poisoned streams and what nuclear weapons do to the planet? But the fact is that if war were moral, legal, defensive, beneficial to the spread of freedom, and inexpensive, we would be obliged to make abolishing it our top priority solely because of the destruction that war and preparations for war do as the leading polluters of our natural environment. While converting to sustainable practices could pay for itself in healthcare savings, the funds with which to do it are there many times over in the US military budget. One airplane program, the F-35, could be canceled and the funds used to convert every home in the United States to clean energy. We are not going to save our Earth's climate as individuals. We need organized global efforts. The only place where the resources can be found is in the military. The wealth of the billionaires does not even begin to rival it. And taking it away from the military, even without doing anything else with it, is the single best thing that we could do for the earth. The madness of war culture has got some people imagining a limited nuclear war, while scientists say a single nuke could push climate change beyond all hope, and a handful could starve us out of existence. A peace and sustainability culture is the answer. Pre-presidential campaign, Donald Trump signed a letter published on December 6, 2009 in the New York Times, page 8, to President Obama that called climate change an immediate challenge. Quote, "Please don't postpone the earth," it said. "If we fail to act now, it is scientifically irrefutable that there will be catastrophic and irreversible consequences for humanity and our planet," end quote. Among societies that accept or promote war making, those consequences of environmental destruction will likely include yet more war making. It is, of course, false and self-defeating to suggest that climate change simply causes war in the absence of any human agency. There is no correlation between resource scarcity and war, or environmental destruction and war. There is, however, a correlation between cultural acceptance of war and war. And this world, and especially certain parts of it, including the United States, is very accepting of war, as reflected in the belief in its inevitability. Wars generating environmental destruction and mass migration, generating more wars, generating further destruction, is a vicious cycle we have to break out of by protecting the environment and abolishing war. Thank you. I want to bring up here someone I've admired for quite a while by the name of Tim DeChristopher, who is the founder of the Climate... He is the founder of the Climate Disobedience Center. Tim DeChristopher disrupted an illegitimate Bureau of Land Management oil and gas auction in December of '08 by posing as bidder number 70. Outbidding the oil companies for parcels around Arches and Canyonlands National Parks in Utah. For this act, he was imprisoned for a total of 21 months, which earned him international media presence as an activist and as a political prisoner of the U.S. government. He has used this platform to spread the urgency of the climate crisis and the need for bold, confrontational action in order to create a just and healthy world. Tim has used his prosecution as an opportunity to organize the climate justice organization Peaceful Uprising in Salt Lake City, and more recently founded the Climate Disobedience Center. He continues the work to defend a livable future. Tim DeChristopher.
Thank you. Thank you for that welcome. Thank you all for being here for this really important gathering to connect the dots between war and our environmental crisis. It's I think, an important challenge that we face and a very timely opportunity to get together and connect these dots.